Hey guys, sorry I've been gone for a while. I got a parking ticket. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is one of the greatest fighting games ever created, and every other platform fighter pales in comparison to their father. Very few games are able to seamlessly blend unique gameplay, creativity, and replay value as efficiently as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it all culminates into a monumental achievement for the platform fighter genre. In this video, I'm going to explain the different aspects of SSBU, what I like, what I don't like, what Nintendo can improve, and how SSBU embodies everything that makes a fighting game memorable and replayable. And guys, just remember that this is just my opinion, but we could all probably agree that these games are amazing. But before I get into what makes this game so special, let's look at a brief rundown of the series and its creator. The first installment in the Super Smash Bros. Series was released on January 21st, 1999 in Japan and April 26th, 1999 in North America on the Nintendo 64 to commercial and critical acclaim, and defined the platform fighter subgenre of fighting games. The creator of the game, who is also the creator of Kirby, Masahiro Sakurai, pitched a prototype of the game, known as Dragon King, the fighting game, to the higher-ups at Nintendo, which featured these weird-looking wireframe fighters. Sakurai believed that these wireframe fighters lacked personality and recognizability, leading him to replace these guys with Nintendo's most recognizable characters, like Mario, Link, Pikachu, and Kirby, without telling the company's higher-ups. When Nintendo's higher-ups eventually caught wind of this new prototype, they were thoroughly impressed, and the Super Smash Bros. Franchise was born. Now, there are currently 5 Super Smash Bros. Games, being the one that started it all, Smash 64, the competitive peak of the franchise, Smash Melee, the critically mixed Smash Brawl, the twin Wii U and 3DS games, and the most recent entry, Ultimate. Each installment added new first and third-party fighters, new game modes, story content, and new items, with Daddy Sakurai being the executive producer of each game, and his work ethic can be attributed to almost all of the success of the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. His borderline insane work ethic shines through in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as this game is nothing short of a spectacle with the vast amount of content and ginormous roster of fighters in the game. I mean, after all, this is the ultimate Super Smash Bros. Game, and the title couldn't be more fitting. Sakurai has stated on multiple occasions that SSBU was his final mission from Satoru Iwata, who's certainly smiling down at him, and the addition of Sora marks his departure from the franchise. All I gotta say is thank you, Sakurai. Enjoy your retirement, because you've done more than enough to deserve it, and get some sleep, bud. Alright, that's enough glazing. Let's actually talk about what makes this game amazing, starting with... This wouldn't be the ultimate Smash Bros. Game if every previous fighter wasn't in it. Yes! Yes! Oh, fuck me! SSBU boasts the largest roster of any Smash Bros. Game, with previously cut characters making their return, alongside a couple of new additions excluding the DLC. On the character select screen at launch, there were 76 playable fighters, and we got to see old fighters make their return, such as Solid Snake, Ice Climbers, Wolf, and Pokemon Trainer, while also seeing some brand new additions to the roster, such as Ridley, Simon and Richter, Inkling, and K. Rool. Out of these 76 fighters, there are 69 unique fighters and 7 clone or echo fighters. With the DLC Fighter Pass 1 and 2, the roster goes from 76 to 89 fighters, with 8 of the 13 fighters being from third parties. This is easily the most stacked roster in any fighting game ever created. I mean, name one fighting game that has as many recognizable faces as SSBU. I'll wait. Dumb thinking, because there's nothing. The vast lineup of characters illustrates how the game can be universally tailored to many different playstyles, as there are many different character archetypes. According to Smashpedia, there are 3 different character archetypes, being offensive, defensive, and flexible. Under these 3 archetypes, there are many sub-archetypes that define each character's playstyle with respect to how they approach, kill, and defend. Under the offensive archetype, the most common sub-archetypes are your all-rounders, mix-ups, and powerhouses. The most common defensive sub-archetypes are zoners, stage control, and keep away, while the most common sub-archetypes for flexible characters are dynamic, first strike, and precision fighters. I'm not going to explain what each of these sub-archetypes mean because that would take me way too much time, But just know that these archetypes do a great job at differentiating fighters from each other while giving the player many options to suit their preferred playstyle. If you want to play someone who's a jack of all trades and learn the fundamentals, you'd probably play a balanced character like Mario, Yoshi, or Pit or Dark Pit. If you want a fighter who can dish out as much damage as they can take, you'd look to play a heavyweight like Bowser, Ganon, or K. Rool. If you want to bore your opponent to death and never talk to a woman again, you'd likely play a zoner like Duck Hunt, Min Min, or Simon and Richter. Although SSBU isn't the first game to have character archetypes, the game's large roster allows for different fighters to fit multiple sub-archetypes, such as Captain Falcon being both a mix-up and a bait and punish, or Link being both a first strike and a turtle. This not only makes SSBU the most accessible Smash game for new players because there are plenty of characters to suit one's playstyle, but also because the new additions shake the meta up quite a bit. Now that there are so many new characters, a bunch of new matchups are created that affect the competitive meta. To give a brief description of what a matchup is essentially used to assess how a fighter's strengths and weaknesses are able to affect a match against another fighter. Matchups can be positive, negative, or neutral. For instance, Ridley has a negative matchup against Rob, Game & Watch has a positive matchup against Pikachu, and Bowser shares a neutral matchup with Ness and Lucas. Although matchups are not exclusive to SSBU, I feel that this is a great mechanic because it encourages the player to pick up a secondary main, and with the sheer number of fighters in the game, it's relatively easy to do so. Even with the drastic increase of character matchups, SSBU easily possesses the most balanced roster out of any Smash Bros. Game, as in previous entries, there have been at least 3 characters that dominate competitive play. In Smash 64, the competitive scene was dominated by Pikachu and Kirby. In Melee, the 4 most common fighters that would win every major were Fox, Falco, Jigglypuff, and Marth. In Brawl, Meta Knight was leagues above every other fighter and is considered the most broken character to appear in Smash. So dominant, in fact, that Meta Knight was banned from competitive play for a short period. In Wii U and 3DS, the pay-to-win supremacy reigned supreme, as Cloud and Bayonetta were absurdly broken. In SSBU, while the top tiers reign supreme at major tournaments, there's much more variety with the fighters that win these tournaments. Like, look at this. There are 13 different fighters that have won major tournaments in 2023, and if we compare these results to the second most balanced Smash game, Wii U and 3DS, we see that there are 11 fighters that consistently won major tournaments. That's not to say that there aren't terrible fighters, like Little Mac, Ganon, K. Rool, and DDD, but these characters are still incredibly fun to play with, and if you are better than your opponent with these characters, maybe not Little Mac, you will win. When the game was first released, I feel like most of the bottom tier characters in previous Smash games received some pretty decent buffs. Nothing crazy, but enough to not make these guys completely unplayable.
Guys, I fucked the controller, it does that now.
A brand new addition to the roster comes with Echo Fighters. Echo Fighters are pretty much just clone characters that have slight moveset and cosmetic differences. The only complaint that I have regarding Echo Fighters is that some of them can be kinda lame. Like Dark Samus, Daisy, and Richter are all identical to their normal counterparts and don't add anything new to the roster. Comparing them to the other Echo Fighters, being Ken, Lucina, Dark Pit, Roy, and Chrom, they all have special characteristics that differentiate them from their normal counterparts, which can make them warrant a spot in the roster. These Echo Fighters don't really warrant a spot on the roster because their movesets are identical to their normal counterparts, and I feel that making them alternate costumes would have been better to make the roster feel a little tighter. This isn't a big deal at all, mainly because, well, it's only 3 characters. And it's really nitpicky, but I'm just looking for anything negative I could say about the roster. The final thing I want to touch on regarding the game's roster is how the new characters were revealed. Almost every time Nintendo did a reveal for a new character in the game, they sent the internet into a frenzy, with the most notable examples being with Steve, Joker, Sora, Ridley, Simon, and Banjo and Kazooie. These are all super cool, and it's clear that Nintendo has a lot of respect towards the third-party IPs in their game. My personal favorite was when Joker was revealed at the VMAs, as this reveal embodies Persona 5 perfectly. To end this segment, I want to say that there's almost nothing wrong with the roster in SSBU. Everything from the new characters added and how they affect the gameplay to the character reveals are all very positive, and the only thing that I mildly dislike are a couple of Echo Fighters. Well, that's all well and good, but what can you do with these fighters? Well, SSBU has the most in-game content of any Smash game to date, with this pretty stacked menu. Let's look at every game mode on this menu and see what it's all about, starting with the largest new addition, Spirits. Spirits are brand new obtainable buffs that change casual gameplay quite a bit. When a spirit is equipped to a fighter, it gives them a couple of buffs that range from pretty minuscule to downright game-breaking. There are two types of spirits, primary and support spirits, which can be mixed and matched to give a fighter an ideal build in casual play. Spirits also replaced the trophy system that was in previous Smash games, as you were able to collect 3D models of characters whose franchise was represented in Smash. Now, 3D models of trophies have been replaced with the 2D models of spirits, which is kinda lame, but there are way more spirits in SSBU than there have ever been trophies in previous Smash games, and rendering unnecessary 3D models in an already packed game would have taken way too much time, so I'm not too upset. The addition of spirits is pretty cool, but rarely ever used in casual play, as items already add enough chaos to casual play, and spirits can be kinda boring to collect. Well, how do you collect spirits? That would be by playing through the World of Light campaign. The World of Light campaign is a new story mode where you run around a giant map, collect spirits, and partake in different fights using spirits to give you an advantage. World of Light is somewhat similar to the Subspace Emissary that was in Brawl, as there are both story modes where you're able to unlock different characters, enjoy some CGI cutscenes, and put your abilities to the test. A pretty mild take incoming, but World of Light is pretty boring compared to the Subspace Emissary, mainly because Subspace had cool platforming sections mixed with boss fights and fighter encounters, while the World of Light doesn't have these platforming sections, which makes the gameplay loop of the World of Light really boring and repetitive. Not to mention that some of the fights in the World of Light are genuinely unfair and devoid of any fun. Like the Dr. Wily spirit is incredibly difficult to complete, as you have to fight 8 Metal Mega Mans and a Dr. Mario on stamina mode,
What the Sigma?
Jeez, oh my god, what the fuck?
or the Pauline spirit, where you have to play on this terrible stage and try to kill a Peach who just runs away from you while a Mario and Giant DK defend her. Very rage-inducing. In my opinion, spirit encounters are repetitive because of how long the campaign is and how huge the spirit board is, which makes completing the game take around 15 hours and 100%ing the game around 30 hours. Combine this with the rewards obtained that you will never use and some annoying fighter encounters, and you have a pretty boring game mode. That's not to say that the World of Light isn't well made. The map is huge and has a lot of variety with the settings, and playing as Master Hand in the end was pretty cool, and I really enjoyed playing with the skill tree, but these aren't enough to make me return as the gameplay loop isn't that fun when playing against CPUs. I'm not going to complain too much, because I'm still happy that we got some sort of story mode content, but Spirit Mode is pretty bloated and overstays its welcome a little. Next, we got some cool content under the Smash section. Don't mind if I do. They added a tournament mode, which is cool. Took Nintendo 5 entries to add this, but still cool nonetheless. The next new addition is Squad Strike, where you can play with 3v3s or 5v5s and just pick characters for every stock that you have. Squad Strike is really fun, and I'm sure local tournaments are really fun as well with friends, but I don't have any friends. But if you do have friends, I'm sure that you'll have a blast with these game modes. Then of course, you can enjoy your classic Smash Bros experience and Smash with up to 8 players. Nintendo made a pretty big change by implementing the new rule set mechanic, which allows you to create rules. You pick how long a match lasts, if spirits can be used, and pick stages and items and much more. You can create multiple rule sets for however you prefer to play, which is a welcome change. Another change, albeit more minute, is that you get to pick your stage before you select your character, which I weirdly prefer. I really don't know why I like this. I've probably just grown accustomed to it, but it's not a massive change. That's about everything in this section. Now, let's take a look at the Games and More section, as there's a decent amount to unpack. Classic mode has been revamped, and this is one of the best versions we've gotten. In the previous Smash game, Smash Wii U, you navigate this little board and fight 6 rounds, and after these rounds, you can fight Master Hand and Crazy Hand, or Master Core. In Super Smash Bros. Wii U, each encounter was randomized, but now in SSBU, each fighter has their own predetermined path, which I honestly prefer. This is because this allows you to master an individual character's path, which allows you to grind for a character's high score, while the random encounters in Smash Wii U relies on RNG to achieve a high score. As you clear a character's path, the difficulty rises to keep you on your toes, and near the end, you do a little platforming section. Something like this probably would have made more sense being included in World of Light, but who cares, it's still pretty fun. There are also more bosses. Apart from Master Hand and Crazy Hand, you can now fight Marks, Galleon, Giga Bowser, Dracula, and Rathalos at the end of Classic Mode. This is great. The new bosses added are really fun to fight and make Classic Mode feel much more varied than previous versions. After you beat the boss fight, you're greeted to a nice little mini game where you have to shoot all the names in the end credits. Or just watch the credits roll, it really doesn't matter. Let's see what else there is. Training mode got reworked a little, as now you train on this graph looking stage that shows you the trajectory of a fighter when they're hit, which makes training much more helpful, as you would basically beat up an AFK person on whatever stage you chose in previous games, so this is definitely an upgrade. We also have Home Run Contest and Mob Smash making their return, and these are pretty fun minigames for about 30 minutes, but it's still good to have these. Mob Smash has 3 different game modes in which you try to kill a mob of NPCs. I'd say, if you have some pent up rage that you want to unleash, play Century Smash. If you are the rage, play All-Star Smash. And if you want a reason to rage, play Cruel Smash. Features that were added in Smash Wii U that appear in Ultimate are Mii Fighters and Amiibo, and these are both welcome additions. Mii Fighters are pretty self-explanatory. You pick a Mii on your Switch, choose whether you want them to be a gunner, fighter, or swordsman, and create his moveset. Even though Mii Fighters aren't that good in competitive play, besides maybe the Brawler, they are all fun characters to use, and creating different movesets for each Mii can be really fun. The other mode, Amiibo, is a pretty neat concept. You purchase a cool little figure of your favorite fighter, play some matches against them, optionally give them spirits, and watch them level up and adopt your playstyle. This is a really cool feature, as Amiibos literally learn how to fight like you. I've been teaching my Nest Amiibo the best Nest tech there is. Roll the back throw. There are some cool things you could do with these guys, like online tournaments where you could fight alongside your Amiibo, or play with them in battle arenas. I like Amiibo, and don't mind that this is a feature you must pay for, cause Amiibos also act as cool little figurines and are fun to collect. A feature that took Nintendo a couple of updates to add was the Stage Builder, where you could build your own Smash Bros stages. Crazy, right? The Stage Builder is pretty neat, and there's a lot you could do with it. You can make super chaotic stages with lava and cannons all over the place, make little challenges for your fighters and post them on TikTok, or make corn. Yeah, if you didn't think the Smash Bros community was weird enough, some players went as far as creating full-blown corn with the Stage Builder, which was definitely what Sakurai intended when he added it. The Stage Builder is really cool, and the community does come up with some decent stages from time to time, and building stages in general is fun, but nothing crazy. The final feature is the VR mode, and I don't have a Nintendo Labo, so I can't test it, which is a bummer, because that would have made me the first person to ever try this feature. I'll leave that honor to someone else. The last thing I'm going to touch on is the vault section. What's in the vault? Well, right off the bat, we can go through a plethora of music from games represented in Smash, and I can't lie, most of the soundtracks got some heat, and Nintendo even remixed a couple of songs, which is a nice touch.
Yo, yo, yo! Ah!
By the way, Nintendo, please don't sue me for using this music, I'm too broke, and I don't want generational debt. You can even create playlists, and add your favorite songs in the game on a queue, and even listen to the music while the Switch screen is off, which takes the cake as the loneliest way to listen to music. You can also hear characters' voices, which is kinda weird, but it's good for me, as now I no longer need to leave the house to hear a woman's voice. On another note, we have replays. Yeah, you can save and share replays of matches. There is already a dedicated way to save photos and game clips on the Switch, which isn't compatible with SSBU for some reason, which probably made this video take a couple weeks longer than intended, but it's whatever. They even have a video editor. Look at the cool video I put together.
Another one.
Baby, it's triple!
Fucker right in the pussy!
Yeah, it's pretty bare bones, but that's what's to be expected in a Smash Bros. Video editor. There's also the record section, which allows you to check your stats, milestones, look at Smash tags from online people, and view your past opponents. You can also view challenges to unlock these neat little pictures, look at tips from the devs to improve, and see cutscenes from the World of Light and buy some Mii costumes, spirits, and music tracks without spending real money. Besides online mode, that's really all of the single player content, and to be honest, it is pretty lackluster besides classic mode and the stage builder. None of the extra game modes are revisited because they tend to lose their steam pretty quickly, which is excusable for the minigames but disappointing for the story mode. But, what about the gameplay and online? Like, does the game make you feel like Mario? Yes. Yes it does. If I had to describe the gameplay in SSBU, I would say that its pacing is not as fast as Melee, but not as slow as Wii U.
It's a parade inside my city, yeah.
Just sitting perfectly in the middle. In the game, your main objective is to KO your opponent by knocking them off stage, and as you hit your opponent more, their percentage increases, causing them to be KO'd easier. This feels like a very unique Nintendo-esque spin on the fighting game genre, and I mean that in the best way possible. There are of course many ways to KO your opponent, via your aerials, tilts, grabs, special attacks, and smash attacks. The game isn't purely offensive, as you could shield, directional air dodge, and roll. There's also basic tech that's pretty easy to learn, which helps make the game accessible to newer players. One of the best aspects of the gameplay is something that many games struggle with, as SSBU is really easy to pick up and play, but hard to master, while still being incredibly fun, which makes improvement feel very noticeable and very rewarding. Like I said earlier, your main objective is to knock your opponent off stage, so let's take a look at the stage selection. Wow, there are a lot of stages, but wait, something's missing. Where is Pokefloats? This was the best stage in Melee. I mean, it's kinda disappointing, but whatever. Alright, prepare yourselves, because these are the 3 worst stages in SSBU. Starting with the worst stage, the Great Cave Offensive. This stage is just way too big for a fun fight, and there's way too much going on with the minecarts, lava, and spikes. This is just garbage, and not even fun in 8-player Smash. Next, we have Pac-Land. This stage just hurts to look at. I mean, this looks like it was made in MS Paint. This stage is also an auto-scroller, so most of the time, you're fighting against the stage instead of your opponent. And the number 3 spot goes to WarioWare. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's 75M. This stage gives me PTSD from the Pauline Spirit battle, and the less said, the better. Apart from these 3 stages, I'd say that a decent chunk of stages are pretty fun if playing casually with items, like WarioWare, Castle Siege, Windy Hill Zone, Skyworld, and Big Blue. These all have interesting gimmicks that fulfill the purpose of shortening the skill gap for casual play, while still feeling pretty fun to play on. The competitive stages are what you typically expect. Single large platform, 3 platforms, a moving platform, all pretty standard, and make matches much more skill-based. Going back to casual play for a moment, there are plenty of items to have fun with and level the playing field. There is a plethora of items that all add an aspect of chaos to the game, whether it's the star that makes you invincible, the ore club that shoots tornadoes, or the glorious smash ball that desecrates your opponent via a cool short cutscene. While I tend to play the game more competitively, I'll never understand why people dislike items, cause it's pretty fun to turn your brain off and throw items at each other, and not everyone wants to play with competitive rules. Enough waffle though. This game is buttery smooth, and has my favorite gameplay out of all of the Smash Bros games. It is just so much fun, and with a roster this diverse and unique, it is impossible to get bored of playing casually and competitively with other people. The pacing of each match is utter perfection, with an average competitive match typically lasting around 5 to 7 minutes. Do you last longer than an average SSBU match? Leave a comment down below. Combine the bite-sized matches with rewarding skill-based gameplay, and you have a recipe for infinite fun. On the topic of skill-based gameplay, I said it once and I'll say it again. I genuinely believe that in competitive play, if you are actually better than your opponent, unless you're Little Mac, you will beat your opponent and win, unlike a certain game I covered on this channel. Like I said earlier, this game is easily the most balanced Smash game, which is very hard to pull off when you have a roster this big, and the balance changes make SSBU a very approachable game for people who want something more competitive. Too bad Nintendo don't really fancy the competitive community, like when Nintendo pulled Ultimate from EVO in 2022, which typically held the largest competitive tournaments for the game. well, whatever. The gameplay's incredible, and that's a given. But what about that online, though? Nintendo finally caved in September of 2018 and released a paid subscription service that was Nintendo Switch Online. The days of free Nintendo Online games were officially over, and today, we must pay $20 a year. Well, that's not too bad, right? And you get some legacy Nintendo games, which is a solid touch. And for 30 extra beans, you get an N64 and... wait, 30 extra beans? $50 a year for online and some legacy games? GBA, Genesis, and N64 games are cool, but not 30 extra dollars a year cool. Maybe I'm broke, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Is online and SSBU good? I honestly don't think it's as bad as people say. A solid amount of people genuinely believe that the online experience in this game is really poor, which isn't entirely false, but pretty exaggerated. While the new online editions are hit or miss, the peer-to-peer connection is pretty solid if you have a good internet connection, and lag is pretty infrequent. There is the occasional input delay and lag spikes, but not often, but when it does happen, it's very annoying. In Super Smash Bros. Wii U, they had 2 online game modes, for fun and for glory, which were casual and competitive game modes respectively. Now, in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, if you want a casual or competitive experience, you have Battle Arenas and Quick Play, with background matchmaking being another version of Quick Play. Let's start with Battle Arenas. Battle Arenas allow you to create and join public and private lobbies that allow you to use your created rule sets to play games. But for some reason, they temporarily change your rule sets because some rules don't apply. I thought that Battle Arenas were meant so that you could play using whatever rules you wanted online, but I guess I'm mistaken. Battle Arenas are still a decent concept though, and really should have been added into Smash 4, but they're a much welcome addition. While I like Battle Arenas a lot, I really don't use them too often because 1, I don't have friends to play the game with, and 2, I don't like waiting in line for a match, and changing your character takes you out of line, which I don't like, so I mainly stick to Quick Play. Quick Play allows you to queue into a match with whatever character you want and gain elo when you win. Before you hop into a game, you can choose if you want to play with preferred rules, which is kinda bare bones. Instead of just adding your preferred rule set that you created, you get to choose these options instead. I really can't put my finger on why Nintendo makes some backwards decisions, but I won't question any further. I'm sure they have their reasons. What I don't like is that you can't pick a stage. You can only choose to play on all stages, hazards off, battlefield, final destination, and small battlefield, which is kind of a bummer. When you eventually play some games, improve, and gain elo, you reach the Elite Smash threshold. I looked online to see what percent of Quick Play players are in Elite Smash, and people were saying anywhere from 5 to 10%, which I don't really believe. If I had to estimate, the Elite Smash percentile is probably 15 to 20%. I'm not really basing this off of anything, it's just a guess. The elo required to join Elite Smash is sitting at around 13 million. Well, what is the elo? That would be Global Smash Power. Global Smash Power, or GSP, is a number that determines how many online players have a lower GSP than you. This system would work if my GSP didn't increase when I don't play characters. Please don't judge me, but here are my characters in Elite Smash. Have I lost all credibility yet? Well, to be fair, I haven't touched Ridley, Link, Dark Samus, or K. Rool after I got them in Elite Smash, but my GSP for these characters increases as more people reach the Elite Smash threshold. Realistically, I shouldn't have these guys in Elite Smash, but my GSP rises if I don't play games with them. How does that make any sense? This single-handedly makes GSP an inaccurate measurement of your skill, and I think that your GSP for characters in Elite Smash shouldn't increase if you don't play them, and makes what's supposed to be an elite game mode lose its integrity. And not to mention, you could cheese your way to Elite Smash with a dumb rule set. Overall, SSBU Online is pretty rough around the edges, and the gameplay heavily carries the online experience, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. I don't know, has playing Ultimate Team severely lowered my standards of online video games? Maybe so, but the gameplay at its core makes playing online matches so fun, and every fight feels drastically different from the last, which still makes online fun to play despite some bonehead decisions. Well, after all that, what do I have to say? Well, the game's shortcomings, like aspects of the online, some of the single player content, and spirits are pretty noticeable, but are overlooked because the game at its core is so unique, so approachable, and so damn fun. If you're looking for a platform fighter, or even just a regular fighting game, play this game, please. It is more than deserving of being the ultimate Smash game. And thank you, Sakurai, for blessing us with your talent and work ethic. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.